Good morning. My name is Melissa, and I will be your conference operator today. At this time, I would like to welcome everyone to the Infrastructure Management Global Community Webcast on Spectrum 10.1. All lines have been placed on mute to prevent any background noise. After the speaker's remarks, there will be a question-and-answer session. If you would like to ask a question during this time, simply press star, then the number 1 on your telephone keypad. If you would like to withdraw your question, press the pound key. Thank you. I would now like to turn the call over to Mr. Kyron Skywalker, Director of Product Management.
Yep, thanks, Melissa. You pronounced it right, so thank you so much. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Thanks for joining the January community update. What we're going to do this webcast is we're going to spend the first half of the webcast talking about what we presented at CA World. I know there was a big demand because people were not able to make time or get approvals to get to CA World. So you can consider the first 35 minutes as sort of a repeat of what we presented at CA World. And then we'll jump into what we are doing after 10.1, what we're doing the remainder of 2016. So I think I have control already, Melissa. Okay. So my name is Kiran Divakar. I lead the product management team for Spectrum, and on the call with me is my colleague Nagesh. He'll be helping us answer any questions that we get during the presentation. Yes, while we will be having a Q&A session towards the end, but feel free to stop me or feel free to send the questions on the Q&A roster. We'll be happy to take them while we go through the presentation as well. So that should not be a problem. Okay, so I'm obligated to share this slide. This is from our legal team. It essentially says that there are no commitments per se for timelines, but our decisions are based on the resourcing that we have at the current instant. So this is the content we have. I won't spend time going through this. First and foremost, this is the first webcast of 2016. I dropped a note on the community. I wanted to wish you all a very happy 2016 as well, both personally as well as professionally. We achieved a lot in 2015. I think we did a lot of things. We were able to get more stability, better performance and scale, and we were able to get to the key improvements that we wanted to get into the product. I think we feel happy to be able to do that. There's obviously a lot more to be done. We are not satisfied completely with where we are. We want to be able to take our benchmarks both for quality, performance, and responsiveness to you to the next level. So we have a bunch of things we have planned, and I'll talk about that. But as we were discussing amongst ourselves, we were thinking, okay, what is it that we would want to take as a learning from 2015? For us, given the success we have had and the fact that we owe that success to you, the community and the customers who have helped us give the right direction and guidance, we would want to continue to do that. So the message we have given internally to our team is continue to listen to the community, continue to respond to their questions, comments, and so on and so forth. So we have a bunch of more people who will be active on the community other than just a few of us who have been in the past. The learning for you all, I hope you see that we are responding to your questions and the product is taking shape based on your feedback, be it for reporting, be it for scale, or for any other usability aspects. So please continue to provide feedback. You know we listen, and a part of our slides you will see are a direct feedback of what you guys told us. So I just wanted to kick off by saying that. As I said, these are CA World slides. We wanted to make sure that before we get into each product information, we just lay out where are we heading as a vendor, as a tool provider, where are we heading. Over the last 12 to 18 months, you would have heard the unification drum being banged by us all over the place. So unifying the portfolio, unifying tools to make sure that we give that solution feel to the customers using multiple products from our tool set. While that continues to be our focus, we wanted to make sure that we do not sway away our entire focus from technology, from the next generation things that the market is expecting from us towards just unification. And that was creating a bit of confusion around, okay, so if it means unification, then do all the other products go away? What happens? There was a bit of confusion. So I think the management team, and I think I have to credit this to our executive team as well within the BU, we took a step back and we said, okay, what is it that we want to tell the users? So this is it. This is our vision and strategy, that we want to be able to have our product solution, which is a service-centric and proactive monitoring of diverse infrastructure that you have out there, including what you have conventional today, plus SDN, plus other things that support the app economy. And the key tenets that you see here are below: service-centric, unified, proactive, efficient, and relevant. And I won't go into the details of each one of those, and I'm not sure why I'm not. Yeah, okay. So, but I think these shouldn't be a surprise to any one of you. I think we have been trying to achieve these. These have been our guiding principles across the portfolio. So this is where we are going to go to. So we want to be able to manage at the service level. We want to make sure that we unify not only at the UI level, but also at the back end, at the manager levels as well. And you'll see some of the initiatives that we are taking around that. We are working towards an analytics solution. I've talked to a few of you already about this. To target as part of the solution, but that's something we are very, very aggressively funding within the BU as well. And then obviously scale. I mean, that's across all our products. I believe the biggest thing that we have been able to achieve as part of this messaging is this last piece: right information to the if you will, that our entire BU, our entire group is looking towards that. Okay, how do we build products and how do we build integrations which, when work together for end users, give them the right information at the right time? Not too many alerts, not too many alarms, not too few alarms, not too few alerts, but the right information at the right time. And you'll see how the portfolio plays out when we work through this. Given the confusion that we have had at one point in time, I wanted to make sure that even at CA World, with the large forum that we had out there, we had the ability to be able to very confidently and formally call out a few things. So for example, and that's why the level set before we got into anything else, our strategy as a BU is going to be a strategy that revolves around 3 products: UIM, which is going to be our play around systems management and network performance for a subset of the customers; CA performance management, which is going to be our play for performance management in the CSP space, very large scale environments; and Spectrum, which is going to be our play for fault management across the portfolio. So, and that's where we wanted to make sure that we call out that Spectrum is the only fault management component in the portfolio. We are not thinking of rebuilding something new. We are not. Obviously, it will evolve as we try to add more capabilities to it, as we try to make it more and more efficient. So we are not saying that it would be status quo. We will continue to improve on that. But the point that we're trying to make is Spectrum capabilities would be leveraged across different products in the portfolio. So it would be an integration, and that's where slides towards the end of the presentation will talk about how UIM will be leveraging the root cause capabilities within Spectrum. We have around, we have more than 1,000 customers, actually, enterprise customers using Spectrum. It brings in a decent amount of dollars for CA, and we wouldn't want to disturb that revenue stream for us. So there's a business angle to it as well, which you would want to consider, and you need not worry about it. As I said, we'll be continuously working with you around some of these things as well. And the investments that we are making, for example, the bidirectional integration, I'll talk about that. The UI refresh that we did, the web client that we have, I think it's come out pretty amazing. And then some of the new stuff we are doing around reporting as well. We'll talk about that. So I think that should be a good indicator for the community that we are going to do the right things with the product, and we're going to continuously invest into it. Okay, so with that said, let me quickly jump into the 10.1 release summary. So this is what we have with 10.1, and while I'll cover a bunch of things in detail, as I said, web client, this was something that we started off with as an operator tool. So essentially our logic there was Many of our customers have 20, 25, 30, in some cases, hundreds of L1 operators that consume information from Spectrum. In that case, today, Spectrum needs to have a Java-based one-click client on each of those systems, on each of those client machines that we have out there. Now, when we do have those systems, obviously the overhead of being able to configure the right version of Java, being able to patch those client systems, there's a bit of administrative overhead there. So when we started off with this project, we wanted to create a web client that can be accessed from the browser, HTML5 based, that operators can use to triage their problems. And as we worked with customers, and by the way, we worked with over 100 people, outside of our product team. So our product team consists, and the transition of what started off as an operator console to now, which is sort of a semi-admin console as well. I think it's a great transition. I think people have commented about its flexibility, the performance that it is showing, because when we initially started working on with it, some of our larger customers couldn't get the right response time. And we'll be so happy that towards the end of the cycle, we were able to get to the performance level that they were very happy and impressed with. We didn't have some of the admin capabilities that we hadn't planned, but given the requirement and the end-to-end use cases that these customers called out, we were then eventually forced to get those into the product as well. So the point I'm trying to make is, it would still not be a full administrative console. We wouldn't replicate each and every capability of one click onto the web client. It wouldn't make sense. We wouldn't have that many dollars that would be approved to do that. But we will continue to beef up the capabilities, and we will see some of that. Wireless access points and hotspot, this has been a long-standing request that initially came from our came from our European customers, and then we are seeing a lot of that in the US as well. We will talk about that. And then there are a bunch of things that I'll cover in the presentation. I just want to highlight one thing because I don't have separate slides for that. It's enhanced security. So while we continue to work on the vulnerabilities and making sure we are proactive with those vulnerabilities, we have implemented what is called as the mod security component within Spectrum. So essentially, what this component will do is, it's an Apache-based component. What it would do is, it would make sure that when turned on, it's very critical. I think we are not changing the behavior of Spectrum out of the box. Out of box, everything would remain the same. But when this component will be turned on, your traffic would be routed and made more secure when it's going through Spectrum. So things like your SQL injections, your cross-site references, attacks that typically are called out during pen tests, penetration tests from security auditors, those would not be called out. So I think this is the work we have done with some of our larger customers, both in the MSP space as well as the federal space, who have been sensitive about their auditors calling out a bunch of vulnerabilities as part of their penetration tests done by their analysts. And I'm glad to say that over the last 3 quarters, the pen tests that have now been repeated, the number of pen tests that show up as high or medium is 0. So now all the penetration test vulnerabilities that show up are only low, which typically don't have much impact. So I think we are the approach that we are taking to some of these things which impact end users, I just wanted to call that out, that we are making sure that we are serious about that. Web client, as I said, I talked about it. We gave access to a bunch of people. We got some great feedback. Most of the things that you are able to do or need for your L1 operations team, we have that. We have a bunch of more things that we will be calling out as part of the roadmap item, but we have a bunch of things planned there already. So essentially, you open up your browser, you will be able to access one-click web client, which is HTML5 based, from your UI directly, from your browser directly. You don't need to go to the console. As I said, our abilities and features for the first iteration in 10.1, we focused on, okay, what is it that a typical L1 operator would need to make sure they are triaging their problems before pushing it back to L2 teams. And we believe, okay, they want to work with alarms, They want to see some basic neighbor view from a topology perspective. They want to see, okay, if there's an alarm on that device, I want to be able to do a ping on that device, a poll on that device, a trace route on that device. We have that all through the web client. We want to be able to, for example, right-click the alarm and then say, okay, clear the alarm, acknowledge the alarm. We maintain a list of users, and you can, from the web client, assign the alarm to a specific troubleshooter or a specific user as well. So you'll see, I think a lot of those in a much more easier to use way, in a much more lighter way. I think it's pretty cool. And this was the message we wanted to give customers as well, that okay, no Java dependencies, obviously it's much easier to use. A new UI shows customers that we are investing in the product line, all those good things. But more importantly, what we believe internally, this lays the foundation for us to do the unification at a UI level as well. What do we mean by that? So this is the real potential of the unification, and probably let me just say this is a mock-up. Actually, this is not a real screen in the interest of disclosure, full disclosure. So essentially our vision, our goal, our aim is that, okay, now Performance Manager has a HTML5 based client. Spectrum has a HTML5 based client. UIM is working towards the HTML5 based client. So at some point in time, we would want to give users the ability, okay, I want the alarm view from Spectrum, I want this dashboard view from PM, and I want this server view from UIM, and I want the topology from Spectrum again. So we want to be able to give users the ability to pick up portlets or components of monitoring. Mind you, we are not trying to create yet another dashboard, because dashboard would have the view of much more static kind of nature than a dynamic. We want to be able to create a dynamic real-time monitoring console. I think that's where we are trying to head to, wherein all this information is got real-time from those underlying tools. We are just using one of the UIs to be able to club them together to show a real-time view. Now, obviously, this for our engineering teams. We would want to make sure we get this to fruition. We are investing into this. We are working towards this. If you guys have any suggestions, thoughts, please let us know. Our pre-sales teams are very started off easily in a way, and then make it a lot more easier eventually. So yeah, we have those. The next thing I would want to cover is essentially, when we started this project a few months back, what we wanted to do was, okay, how can we help customers manage their wireless environment? So I think this request predominantly came from one of our some time now. I think even before I took over Spectrum a couple of years back, this request has been around. But when I talked to a couple of these large customers in Europe, one of them a large transport provider within Europe, they came up with this problem of, okay, we want to be able to manage our wireless real estate along with our normal Spectrum real estate that manages the other devices. And while today Spectrum understands a controller, understands an access point, gets information from it, it manages it as a network device and not as a LAN controller or not as an access point in itself. What we wanted to do was bring in that element of wireless management capabilities within the product. Now, when we started with this, the reason this diagram is very important is the switch that you see on the left-hand side between the controller and the access point, that topology or that support for that deployment was actually introduced slightly later, because when we initially started with this project and when we were done with a sprint or two of our work, and then we showed it to the customers, and when they tried some of these things, they said, okay, while this looks good, this is not a practical or a real deployment scenario, because at our case, and which we realized was the case with most other customers, we have switches that then connect the access points to the customers constantly being worked with. We had over 30 customers that participated right from the design phase to the validation phase of this project. So thanks to every one of them, I think we were then able customers have which would add value. The things on the left-hand side here, the value proposition, I won't go into that because that's bread and butter for Spectrum, right? I mean, you go out, discover a device, model it, show it in the topology, do thresholding and all. Okay, yes, they can see the topology. Yes, they can see root cause. They can see the fault isolation being done even for the wireless real estate. Now, what value would a typical customer or an administrator we believe is sort of the icing there. So essentially what we want to be able to do is not just allow customers or users to see the topology and then take some reactive actions there. But on number of active users that an access point can have. So what would that help them do is, okay, you set a threshold of 25 users. You know that if the number of users goes to 35, your ability to set a threshold. If it's going beyond 25, notify me and I can take some action on top of that. Same thing with the upload and download volume. If a particular user is having a lot, so as I said, the idea there is to be able to give a bit more control to the user than what they have today, and in turn obviously getting a bit more value than what we give today. Looks, you see there on the left, obviously you see a new folder called as WLC Manager, which is segregated by the vendors, and then you see the controller, the wireless LAN. Right side that you see is the information that we are giving as part of the solution. So I mean the Cisco Lightweight Access Protocol, the wireless information, for example, the access points in your environment, the interface table for that access point, what are the mobile stations, what are the devices connected to that access point. One change that we made here based on the feedback that we had got from some customers that had participated was we gave information about the SSIDs and the users, but that information was not laid out very well. So when we worked with customers, they said it would be very useful for a user, for an administrator to see, okay, these are the 5 SSIDs that are active in my environment, and these are the connected 25 users for each SSID. And the data was all there. We just rearranged that data which a typical administrator would use. So I think that's one change we made as part of the validation as well. And then eventually, this is how the topology would look. So if you see on the left pane, you click on the controller, you expand that container. What you see is that router, that switch connected to the bunch of access point in the topology, all the way up to the router, all the way up to your core router as well. So I think our key goal here is to be able to connect your conventional or your current infrastructure that Spectrum manages with the wireless infrastructure that we did not manage in the past. That's what. So one of the feedback that we got was, okay, I have 6 controllers in my environment, and if I just look at Spectrum, you see there in the screenshot, the access points are just laid out all over the place. So thought process was, okay, how do we make it slightly easier for them to manage? So when you click on the spotlight view, you see that the small pop-up window you see, we list down all the controllers that the environment has, and when you select a controller, only the access points belonging to that controller get highlighted. Everything else is sort of put in the background. You see here only a subset of those here. So again, the point I'm trying to make with these small things is, even though these are small things, we believe these are things which take the monitoring experience to a different level, make it a bit easier for users to use the capabilities, and we are paying extra attention towards that. Which is a good segue into my next point, which is what we are doing for user experience. A bunch of things. I'm pretty sure a few of you are smiling out there looking at a few of these things. So first and foremost was the need to download the unlimited strength JRE. This has been a pain point, not just for users, but even for someone like me, because many of my past presentations and demos that I did, I ran into this issue myself. So we knew this was a problem. This is an open forum, but I'll be a bit honest and open about this as well. So we had a solution for this a couple quarters back itself, even before 10.1, but that solution needed some change on the Java side that we were packaging with Spectrum, and our contract with Oracle did not allow us to make that changes. Thankfully, last quarter we had our own renewal with Oracle, and then our contracts team was able to get this clause to allow us to make changes on the Java side, which we did, and we have a solution now. Same thing with the Sapro tool, the tool that gives the ability to send us the SAPworks from your environment. And one of the things that this was predominantly driven by support, I'll give it to them. So their point was, every time we want to get a work from a customer, we need to give them the tool, the work tool to run in their environment and then give us back. Why don't we package it with the product itself? And again, this needed some back-end contract work with the vendor, but we were able to do that. The third one, proxy models. Again, this was one of the community voted enhancements, nothing rocket science. The idea was, okay, when we have proxy models out there, how do you know which are proxy and which are not? And when we ran it with a few folks in the team, we said, we don't want to boil the ocean for something like this, but what is it that we can do very simply to enable the users find that? And the simple solution is what you see here. We just added a proxy watermark on the models that are proxy. So it's just a simple logic that we put in there. As I said, not rocket science, nothing that would need a scientist to be made change on the back end, but I wanted to call this out for the group that we take a lot of your feedback very seriously, and we try to go to the maximum extent to be able to make that easy for you. Last one is discover connection queue. So if a device config triggers a rediscovery of that device, and if there's an existing discovery in progress today, Spectrum just drops that discovery. And this was a concern for some large environments where these activities happen fairly frequently, or in some dynamic environments as well. So what we did is, again, this, while it seems simple and easy on the face of it, this needed a lot of work in the back end, and more importantly, a lot of testing, because this had the potential to mess up the current workflows and potential for regression issues. So what we did, what we are now doing is, we are just queuing up all the discovery requests, and as and when one discovery finishes, we just start off with the new until the queue is completely cleaned up. So as I said, this has been something which has been asked on the community fairly heavily as well. A reporting manager, and I did this at CA World. We had 80 to 100 people in the room, I believe, and the question I asked was, how many of you are happy with Cabby or Boxy? And to my surprise, actually there were a couple who said yes, they were. And again, with all due respect to that component, yeah, with all due respect to that component, what we figured out was, it scales very well to some of our larger environments, but the usability aspects, the deployment aspects, and some of the back-end working don't appeal to a lot of customers. And this is something we're trying to figure out, how can we make it easy and better for our customers. So these are some of the issues that we have solved and then rolled up into the main the core Boxy or the Cabby component within Spectrum. But what we are more importantly trying to do is take a much more holistic view about this. Okay, what can we do to let people go away from Boxy if they don't want to use it at all? So one of the first and foremost things we said is, okay, most of the organizations have a reporting tool that they have standardized across the organization. So what if we equip users with the right information that they can go to their reporting analyst and then give that information and create those reports for themselves? So one of the things we're doing is, we are documenting the entire Spectrum reporting manager schema, the rows, columns, the columns, the sample queries, everything. And we involved more than half a dozen customers and our internal services team to review as well. So essentially, I believe it's in the next few weeks, what we will be publishing on the CA documentation, the wiki site, is something like this. the relationship between the tables, the description of each of the fields and columns, and what does that mean, and more importantly, if you see at the center, sample queries for key things to be done within the reporting environment. And what we expect to do is have a sort of a do-it-yourself plan. So what we would expect is, okay, we give you the samples, we give you the queries, we tell you how to connect to the Spectrum reporting database, get information from the reporting database, and then push it onto the reporting platform of your choice. That's something we're doing. Additionally, we are also adding reports we are adding Jasper as a reporting platform for Spectrum. So going forward, in the next few months, we will be releasing the first iteration of Jasper. And again, let me take a step back and remind you the first slide. These are just guidelines. This is not a commitment, but we are aggressively looking at getting out with the first release of Spectrum, which has Jasper as the reporting platform that you can use to get all your reporting out of. So we are aggressively working towards that. One of the things that was going through our head was, okay, Cabby scales well in some of our largest environments. We want to make sure that when we are getting to a new platform for reporting, that platform handles the scale and performance that Jasper has as well. And again, I want to qualify this. This is CA internal testing done in our labs with the data that we had with the reporting databases we got from some of the largest customers. And what we started off with was a million records in the report to up to 20 million records in the report. And we were pleasantly surprised that not only does Jasper get us ease of deployment, nimbleness, but it also gets us performance that we want, a lot better performance actually than in the past. And as I said, starting Feb to end of Feb, we intend to get customers a beta version of this to start testing. As I said, the timelines could vary slightly, but if you are interested to try out this, please reach out to us. We'll be happy to give you a version to test in your labs and give us feedback. This is where we were, and what I'm going to do now is, before getting into the future, let me just share this one thing that I told Melanie I would want to share. Give me 1 second, please. Okay, here you go. Are you able to see my screen? Okay, cool.
Yep. Yeah.
Okay, awesome, cool. So okay, so there are a couple of things, and again, this is in the interest of full disclosure. We have been very candid and open with you guys. So we are all set to announce 10.1 GA by end of this week. If all goes well, we are just waiting through some legal reviews of documentation and letters and everything, but we are fairly optimistic that before the end of this week, so before Jan 15, we should be able to announce 10.1 GA. Now the caveats, of course. The first one is we obviously support an upgrade from 10.0. 9.4, for a lack of better term, I would say we have been a bit clumsy there. I'll accept that for myself and my team. So essentially, what we are saying today is, if you are on 9.4, please go to 10.0 and then from there to 10.1. So essentially, not so attractive two-hop upgrade process at this point in time. So if you are in a bit of urgency and if you want to upgrade like immediately next week after we announce GA, unfortunately, that is how we would want to recommend you. What we are doing in the back end is we are running through some tests on our side to make sure that 9.4 to 10.1 upgrade is supported directly as well without needing to go through 10.0. And that's why I said this is a new slide that I added just last night to make sure we are putting all the information out there in front of you guys, candidly, openly, accepting that this was something I missed as the product lead on my side, my team missed on our side. So essentially, out of the box, we would have wanted to support 9.4 direct upgrade to 10.1 as well. There were some misses on our side in the back end. I said we'll fix that for the next release. We assure you of that. But in the next couple of weeks, 2 to 3 weeks, we will be issuing a statement around direct 9.4 to 10.1 upgrades as well, and if it needs any fixes from our side. So that's where we are. We will be announcing GA this week. We will be making sure you get all the letters. We have all the YouTube videos for every feature we talked about, right from the web client to wireless management to more security to the Discover Q connections. We have 6 to 7 YouTube videos ready that we will be publishing this week as well. So I think we are all set. There's just one hindrance, as I said, that I feel a bit unhappy about, disappointed with myself, and our team feels disappointed as well, is that we are not able to support 9.4 to 10.1 upgrades at this point directly, but we assure you in the coming couple of weeks you will get a notice from us about that. I'll pause here. I'm pretty sure there are some questions around that aspect. I'm going to take some questions before I move to the roadmap and then what are the next set of things we intend to do with this with Spectrum.
At this time, I would like to remind everyone, in order to ask an audio question, please press *1 on your telephone keypad. That is *1 to ask a question. And your first question comes from the line of Jim. Jim, your line is open.
Okay, I think I'm not sure if there's a issue with question, but I already see a bunch of. Okay. I meant to call this out at the beginning. So I'm in the US this week and next week meeting customers, and right now I am at our friends in ADP site in New Jersey, and I'll probably just give them an opportunity to see if you guys have any questions as well. I'm doing this from their site. Yes, they were kind enough to let me do it from here instead of my noisy hotel. So thanks guys for that. So you have any questions, Justin?
Yeah, sure. So this is Justin Kulikowski from ADP. The one slide you had, dynamic monitoring console, where you had the real potential unification. I understand that was a mock-up, but do you guys envision that being a separate new tool?
No, one of our existing tools to be able to do that. So essentially, the last thing we want to do is add another layer on top, but our goal is, in an ideal world, if everything goes the way I have it in my head, I know our architects have a lot of challenges around that, but we'll work through that, that be it Spectrum, be it UIM, or be it PM, either of these tools should be able to pick components from the other tools. So for example, if your operations team is comfortable with Spectrum console, we would want to get that information within the console of their choice. If your UIM teams are comfortable with their console, our goal eventually would be, the utopian goal would be to get information in their console of choice. So, and the reason we believe a bit optimistic about this, even though we haven't tried feasibility, is the underlying components technically are the same, which is HTML5. So the portlets, the technology allows us to make the portlets a lot more maneuverable than the current technologies that Spectrum or some of these older tools use. So that's where our head is, Justin. Yep.
That makes sense. Thanks.
Yep. I did think there were a few questions around the similar lines there on the Q&A roster as well. Sure. Okay, so there's one question I think that's interesting. I'll just take that one before I move on to the what are we doing next. This is from Matthias. Hey Matthias. So his question is, with the Jaspersoft migration, does the data migrate as well? So Matthias, yes, one of the tests that our team is trying to do is taking the reporting DB from Cabby and then plugging it into Jasper and importing that data into Jasper. I'm not sure if we are 100% successful yet, but our goal is to be able to do that. So it would be something that we would be wanting our users to do. Just turn off Cabby, turn on Jasper, retain their data, start seeing data in the new tool. Okay, so with that said, I'll move on to what are we doing next. So okay. Like last year, so when after last CA World, the team got together and we were thinking, okay, what is it that we want to tell customers next CA World, that is CA World 2015 that just ended, that would make them excited about the product line, make our sales teams excited about the product line. And we said, okay, the web client is something that would, if we are able to get it to fruition, would be something which would be pretty exciting. Very happy we are there. So what next? So we already started thinking, what is it that we would want to do that CA World 2016, our customers feel we are doing the right thing. Our sales teams are very happy with the product as well. These are a bunch of things we are planning to do. So what we have realized in the past is we do a feature, we release it to market, and we immediately jump to the next new feature in our backlog list. So we don't give engineering time to bake in the feedback that we got for existing features. So what we have done is we are consciously setting aside bandwidth to make sure that we build on the feedback and follow-up capabilities that customers want for new features. So we have a significant portion of our bandwidth reserved for web client work. So essentially things like more launch in context options. So we want the users to have the ability to launch into any CA or third-party tool from their web client. We want to enable the backend to do that. More importantly, we are trying to work a framework to drive actions directly from the web client itself. So essentially what our architects are doing as we speak is they are trying to figure out a very simple framework wherein you put that framework on the web client on your browser, you get a alarm, and in response to that alarm you are able to drive some action, and that action could be as simple as running a delete command to launching a different product altogether, or much more complex workflow or some runbook automation that you want to do. And how we are intending to do that is we are intending to do that by giving a simple script framework out of the box from the browser. So we don't want to make it complex or very heavy for the tool itself, but at the same time we want to make it open for the end user. So our vision there, our goal there is you have an alarm, and in the backend you have a predefined script that would be empty out of the box. And then as a response to the alarm, you as a user can fill in whatever logic you want as an action for the particular alarm. So we have some thoughts. As I said, as we are ending the 10.1 stream, we are in the process of planning 10.2, which will have some of these things, and we will be able to get with a lot more customers in the coming weeks to verify some of those workflows if they are aligned with what they expect. So they will do that. NetConf is something, and I'm pretty sure a few of the pre-sales guys that we have on this call from CA, they are smiling at this as well. NetConf has been something that we were getting pushed a lot to support. So this is sort of an alternative to SNMP. Cisco is pushing it a lot, Juniper is pushing it a lot. We have seen a lot of traction around this. So that's something we are trying to get to. We are also trying to get to MTOC. This is a way of getting some of the provider non-SNMP device and real estate into Spectrum for topology as well as for root cause. I talked about the dynamic flexible HTML5 monitoring. I think that's something we're definitely going to spend a lot of our resources on. The other thing was, okay, we got to a scale of 1 million models per Spectrum server, and I had promised to some of you when I talked to you one-on-one that we're not going to stop at that. We are going to continue to improve the scale of Spectrum. Our immediate target is at least going to be 2 million models per Spectrum server, and based on some of the discussions that we have had internally, we think for 10.2 that would be a feasible and a good stretch goal to have. So we would potentially have 2 million models per Spectrum server with 10.2 as we start planning it. So again, I draw your attention back to the first slide. It's not a commitment, there's no timeline, but this is something as a guidance, something that we are opening up candidly with you, the users, because you have been kind with us, giving us the right direction and feedback over the last 18 to 24 months. So we are going there. And there are a bunch of things technologically, right? For example, virtual device context support for Nexus devices. We want to support dynamic VPN. We'll do all the day-to-day things that we do. There are two things I haven't called out here. I was initially uncomfortable to call it out here, but I'll still say it out at least verbally, what's going through our head. So one of the things that has been a long-standing request from many of the Spectrum customers has been cross-landscape fault isolation and cross-landscape correlation. We have our architects starting to look at that. Okay, what is it that would take us to do cross-site or rather cross-landscape correlation? We are, very candidly, I think we understand it in plain English. What does it mean to do that? We are struggling at our end to define the use case of what is the boundary of a landscape that we would want to use for that cross landscape. So if any one of you, this is a verbal thing, so if any one of you is interested, feels good about cross landscape correlation, our architects would want to have a few discussions with you. As we promise, won't be more than 30 to 40 minutes. But if you have a multi-landscape environment, and if you are willing to spend an hour or so with us, I think we would be able to get it to at least a feasibility stage, and then, if feasible, onto the roadmap. So this is a call out for action to all the users out there, if it's possible. With that, as I said, this is the formal roadmap slide. I know it's very busy, difficult to read, which I think is good, because we have so many things to do, which we are trying to squeeze on the template that our corporate team pushes down. So I look back at it 24 months back. The content on our roadmap slides was not as much. I think the fact that we are got to a point where the product is stable, we are happy with the quality, not completely happy, we still have some work to do, but happy with quality. We want to take it to the next level, and we have a bunch of things you see here. As I said, we are doing platform stuff, we'll continue to do vulnerabilities. We will be having an initiative around REST. So basically, and again, I'll be very open and honest. One of the questions that I met one of the customers at CA World, and they asked a very interesting question. By the way, we always had a REST API improvement project in our back pocket. We were trying to fund it. So the question asked by the customer was, I won't name the customer, was, your CEO talks about the app economy and APIs and all that. When are you going to improve Spectrum REST API? So which was a very reasonable question to ask. And I said, we are going to fund that initiative. We are going to make sure that we expose more REST calls, and we make our REST calls a lot more granular than what we are today. So that's something we are absolutely looking at. And then I said, a bunch of things that I already talked about. I'm going to pause here. I have a couple more slides that I want to talk about. We are venturing into SDN, software-defined networks. I have a few slides. I want to just expose you all to that slide. We are almost ready with that part as well. But I'll pause for just another minute to see if there are any questions.
To ask a question, please press *1. And we do have a question for the line of Ankur Aurora.
Hey, Kiran, this is Ankur.
Hey, yep.
So I have a question regarding those YouTube videos that you mentioned earlier. Is there any plan to include some of the advanced features of Spectrum, like model type editor, event procedures, southbound gateway, so that more users can, know more about those advanced features?
Absolutely. Hey, Ankur, thanks. So model type editor, we already have a video out there. So what I'll do is, Nagesh, after the discussion tomorrow, once you're in office, so I'm in the US, Nagesh is taking this from the office late in the night, so thanks, Nagesh. So if you could send out the list of all our existing YouTube videos on the community, Nagesh, tomorrow once you are in the office, I think that would be great. I think people would then it would be like a summary recap of all the videos. So yes, Ankur, we have some of those. We have a lot more planned, and again, this was driven by the community as well. So this was voted by the community, we need X, Y, Z, and all those are in the pipeline. So I think what we'll do tomorrow is we'll not only publish the existing YouTube videos, we'll also publish our pipeline, our backlog for videos as well. And you guys on the community can comment whether you want to see that list change or something else. Absolutely. Thanks for the question.
Thank you, Kiran.
Yeah.
Thanks.
And we do have a question. I'm sorry.
No, please go ahead. Yeah, please go ahead. I thought there was no more questions. So please go ahead, Melissa. Yep.
We do have a question from the line of Jim. Jim, your line is open.
Hey, this is Jim Wendell. How you doing?
Yep, good. How are you?
Good. You earlier mentioned that you were going to publicize the schema for Spectrum and examples of queries for reporting for Jasper and for accessing the database. Are you doing the same for Service Operations Insight?
Yeah, so I'm doing a webcast towards end of the month for SOI as well. But the short answer, Jim, to that is yes. I'm asking the SOI architects to talk to the Spectrum architects who are building out that schema. So absolutely yes. The only difference is while I'm able to confidently talk about at least a broad timeline for Spectrum, for SOI, I still need to do some due diligence in the back end. But to your point, as I said, the short answer, absolutely yes. Okay, cool. So if Melissa, there are no more questions, I'm conscious of time. I'm going to take just 5 more minutes, I promise. I have 2 topics to cover. I know these 2 topics are close to a lot of people's hearts on the call as well. So first is UIM bidirectional integration. I won't go through the background. I think it's like motherhood and apple pie, right? I mean, we need to have an integration. People use those 2 consoles. Our goal there is, I said this in response to Justin's question earlier as well, that we want to be able to allow users to use the console of their choice and still get more information about different domains we have in their environment. So essentially, we want to be able to let Spectrum users see the storage information, the database information that UIM has, and then we want to have UIM users see the fault information, the root cause information, and so on and so forth. How are we doing that? There are a bunch of use cases that we are trying to achieve. First one is, not surprisingly, Spectrum alarms in UIM. So very simply, what we want to do is we want UIM to leverage the fault management capabilities of Spectrum. And how are we going to do that? We are going to send Spectrum root cause alarms to UIM. UIM parses that alarm. We have an agreed upon data format, a data model that we are sharing between the 2 products. They review and parse that alarm, and UIM will now suppress the alarms which are symptomatic on their side as well. So essentially, UIM gets the fault management capabilities without any rewrite or any of that fancy stuff, if you will. The next use case is Spectrum network inventory to UIM. And again, this is aligned to the eHealth Spectrum integration we had in the past, right? That to integrate Spectrum and eHealth, you create a global collection, push devices from Spectrum into that global collection, eHealth picks it up and does its performance monitoring profile on those devices. So essentially, a subset of devices that have both the performance and fault context, as I said, on lines of what we had with eHealth. Last but not the least, and probably of the most use and value to customers out there, is synchronization. So mind you, there are 2 synchronization levels. One is the device synchronization, the other is alarm synchronization. What we talk about here is synchronizing alarms and alarm actions across the 2 tools. So you get a database alarm. Spectrum sees that alarm, and if the Spectrum operator wants to clear that alarm because that is something he or she knows is in the maintenance window, they can do that, and that alarm would get cleared on the UIM side as well. So a lot of these actions, I would say all of these actions that you see listed here will be synchronized across the 2 tools. And then we are reviewing a bunch of additional use cases as well. We'll talk about that later. The next topic, very briefly, I want to expose the team to is our support for software-defined network, NFV. As I said, we are working very, very closely with one of the large providers in Canada, Bell Canada. They are working very closely with us, and we have come up with the first iteration for support for NFV within Spectrum, and obviously with Performance Manager as well. So essentially, what we are planning to do is this: showing the virtual overlay topology within the Spectrum topology. What do you mean by that? The underlying hardware infrastructure, the hypervisor hosting the virtual components, the NFVs, we want to be able to show that. We are able to show that. The ability to map the physical infrastructure to the virtual infrastructure. This is one view that we talked about at CA World as well. The view at the top is the logical service, a firewall connected to a load balancer, connected to a cache, which at the bottom shows what physical infrastructure, the compute node that these services are hosted on, with the physical to virtual mapping in the bottom node as well. And that 1, 2, 3 that you see is the logical sequence of the service elements within that logical service. So essentially our value proposition that we are calling out is, in a single view, you would be able to see the service top down, meaning from the logical service to the physical elements, or bottom up, from the physical elements to the logical service as well. We believe that's going to help them, customers solve or manage their SDN environments a lot better, and Bell has confirmed that as well. Before I go into fault isolation, very importantly, what we are trying to tell customers is, we are not managing SDN in isolation, which is what some of the competitors or the solutions out there are doing. We are bringing in the SDN elements back into your conventional network. So we will be able to connect your hypervisors to the switches and routers in your current conventional physical network as well. So you would be able to manage not only SDN, but you would be able to see that, okay, these SDN instances which are hosted here are going through this switch, which is turning out to be a bottleneck, or the interface on that switch is turning out to be a bottleneck. So we want to be able to allow you to do that, and we are able to do that. And obviously fault isolation, which is bread and butter again for Spectrum as well. I won't go into that. VNA, which is the underlying component that allows SDN, is already GA. Spectrum 10.1 will have the framework to support SDN, and by end of January, we will be having a delivery vehicle which will support SDN. So if anyone is interested in SDN management, please feel free to reach out to us. I know this was a lot of content. I think this is the last slide. Yes, this is the last slide. There were a lot of good questions out there on the Q&A roster. I know Nagesh and team have been doing a good job answering it. Thanks for that. But are there any questions you guys want to call out while we are still on the call?
At this time, if you would like to ask a question, please press *1. And we do have a follow-up on the line of Akan Aurora.
Oh, hi, Karen. This is Ankur again. Actually, a question regarding the Spectrum UIM integration. I believe the current integration for the alarms, is based on the severity. Are there any plans to actually improve that part of the integration, maybe based on more of the alarm types, not the severity? So you get the traps from UIM, and so if it's a critical trap, it creates a critical in Spectrum, but just the mapping, the event mapping is based on severity. Are there any plans to improve that mapping, maybe more by the alarm type?
Sure. Yep. So I think we are doing that in the bidirectional integration, Ankur. I'll be, again, very candid with you. The current integration we have with 9.4 and 10.0, which is not bidirectional, but which is getting the servers and VM instances from UIM into Spectrum do topology root cause. We are enhancing that integration as well, but our enhancements to that integration are more around scale and performance versus any major functionality, if you will. We are looking at the bidirectional integration to do a lot of that.
Okay. Thank you.
And there's no further questions at this time.
Sure. I see one from Frank. Hey, Frank. His question is, what new training is being developed for Spectrum, especially in regard to the idea on the communities? Yep. So I introduced Vern to the community. Vern is our Director of Program Management on CA education side, and he is already working through a plan for new formal education, much more detailed than the 101 Spectrum education that we offer from CA. So in the coming quarter, you will hear an update from Vern on that, Frank. So we are following up on that, absolutely. Okay, I'm conscious of time. We started 2 minutes after 10. We are 1 minute after 11. I'm not sure if there are any more questions. I know there are a bunch of questions on the Q&A roster. The ones which are not answered, we will make sure we get back to you and publish the entire Q&A roster on the community as well. So Melanie will do that for us. Melanie, I'll hand it over to you for any final comments. Thanks, guys.
Thank you so much. So thank you. That was a great presentation. As I said, we will be publishing the recording for today, along with the Q&A with all of the answers that we weren't able to get to on today's webcast. So keep an eye on the IM community for that. It'll probably come out later today or tomorrow morning. We do have a poll up asking you to rate the quality of today's webcast topic. If you have a quick second before you sign off, please try to fill that out. We really love to get your feedback on what you like hearing about, what you'd like to hear more about. So please take a second to answer that. And with that, thank you for everyone for joining today, and have a great week.
Thank you for joining today's conference call. You may now disconnect your line.
Okay.